Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another video. This is part 3, the third and final part of my series of no time-lapse videos in which you see me doing this illustration all real time. Now last week I must apologize. After I finished shooting the video I realized I got confused with the timing. I thought I had gone 20 minutes. I'd actually gone real close to my initial goal of 15, and so I probably cut it shorter than I even had to. But I think this time, right from the get-go, I'm going to say 20 minutes. I want to have at least 20 minutes to wrap this up. And you see me jumping in here with this ink pen, the Pigma Micron. Or is it the Micron Pigma? I can never remember. Anyway, that's the 08 is the one that I like to use. Those of you who've watched my videos, you can probably remember. And I think what I really ought to try to do is move as quickly as possible with my inking approach so as to allow time for doing the polishing, the sort of final touch-ups. And in fact, you know, inking quickly can give your drawing a sort of a lively look. And I want this vehicle that she's flying to be sort of beat up and rusted out looking anyway. So, you know, a quick, imperfect looking inking technique actually probably goes along nicely with that. Those of you who are trying to work on your inking technique, hopefully it'll be helpful for you to see this all real-time approach. You know, a lot of times, well, probably almost every time that I do a video in which you see me inking something, that is when I tend to do part of it real-time and then kick it into time-lapse to finish it up. It's very rare for me to show the entire inking process live. I suppose only in one of these previous all real-time videos would I have done that. And so, yeah, I suppose it's helpful to see it, warts and all, boredom and all, I guess I should say, in terms of seeing how much time it takes, even when attempting to ink quickly, how much time it takes to cover the entire drawing. And as I said, I think there are sort of benefits to a lively inking approach. It's sort of brought about by necessity, I think, in this series. I see now that I also forgot to do her other arm. I'm going to have to jump in and add red to that. Crilley, come on. She's going to have one sleeve, one color, and another sleeve. Well, on her planet, that's the fashion. You're supposed to have sleeves of 2 different colors. It is the great tradition of her clan. I'm going to slow down just a little bit here as I draw the face. You know, this is an area that gets extra scrutiny from people looking at the illustrations. You don't want to fly through this, at least I don't want to fly through this too quickly and have her end up looking strange. She probably will end up looking strange anyway. But if I slow down, I can minimize the strangeness. And yeah, hopefully that's good enough. I'm going to go back to the quick inking as I as I draw the hair. And, you know, I'll be honest, I wish I was a better inker. Some people have a real knack for it. I do the best I can. So if you're one of those people who are like, boy, I wish I had a steadier hand, I'm going to say, yeah, me too. I wish I could do the really beautiful inking that I see some illustrators do. It's a tricky thing. I mean, you never give up, you keep at it. But I'll be honest, it just the inking, my inking never looks as good as I really want it to. I decided to have her vest, her Han Solo-esque vest, sort of flapping up behind her to add to the feeling of speed. And the clothing can, greatly accentuate the sense of speed when you have someone in a situation like this. So don't forget that, as an illustrator, you've got a chance to add to the perceived speed by having clothing, a scarf, or whatever it is, sort of flying back there behind them. And especially if you do draw the clothing, but then forget to draw it reacting to the situation, like if her scarf is just, or her vest is just hanging straight down, that really would look kind of bizarre, right? Because we understand from our own experiences that that vest ought to be flapping up in the wind behind her. Coming along, what do we got? 6 minutes that I've put in already just on the inking alone, but I said, give myself 20 minutes this time, so hopefully there will be some time for doing final touch-ups, and you know what? I may give myself 25 minutes rather than end this thing with a lousy-looking illustration. I did say that my goal was to have a better final illustration, and part of what I've allowed myself to do this time is to not really have a background. There basically is just going to be the white of the page. I'm sorry if you feel that that's a cheat, but I did want to limit the damage in terms of how long these videos go. Some of you may have seen recently I did a video in which I used a dip pen. I was considering that for this video, but I'm just not, I don't have enough experience with it, especially in the area of her drawing her face. I was just worried that I would really botch it using that dip pen, and that's why you see me falling back on the old tried and true Micron Pigma. And I'm fairly pleased with the inking that I'm doing so far, but I can see that I definitely need to get back in here with watercolor and other stuff to make this an illustration I can sign off on. I'm going to go across this back part. I'm sort of deliberately making the lines jagged here to suggest that sort of weather-beaten look. And I'm sort of running into this same thing that I did in my previous videos in this series. You do sort of reach a point where you run out of things to teach, And I have reached that point today. I'm inking. Now I'm inking some more. And maybe that explains a lot about why I do use time-lapse. My goal is to have most of the narration be, useful and not just me rambling. And, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there is an art to the recorded conversation. Sometimes people can just do it all off the cuff and gab away, and it's hilarious, and you're loving every minute of it. Other times it just kind of goes on, and you're like, guys, you need to rein it in here. Did you think at all about what you were going to say? And, that's why most of my videos, I'm kicking it into time-lapse and hopefully limiting the narration part to something that is legitimately instructive. But not today. Today I must stick with my plan to do it all real time. Now, right here, I'm thinking better not to ink that because it's being seen through the glass. And actually, I'm going to switch back now to my pencil because it seems to me that this bar should continue, right? But I'm going to keep that in pencil so that it looks sort of translucent. All right, we've done 10 minutes. You know, I think actually giving myself 20 minutes might be enough for the style of illustration that I'm doing here today. We'll see. I don't have to completely say that I'm done with the inking right now. I can always come back with it, but I think what I'm going to do now is, well, hang on a second here. I am going to switch back to watercolor. Of course, at the moment, this illustration looks like a two-color illustration, and I think maybe that is a little too limited in terms of variety. So I'm going to start to introduce a bit of other coloring here, starting with a bit of purple. I don't know if it's reading as purple because it's on top of the brown. But in any case, I do think we need a little more variety in the coloring. And I haven't got a huge plan worked out in advance here. I'm just sort of going in and saying, where can I drop in some alternate color in a way that makes sense? And that's how this is happening, basically. Watercolor, as I said before, really is great for this kind of rusted out type of thing. It reminds me of that old happy little accidents. There are no mistakes. There are just happy little accidents. And certainly watercolor is a great example of that. There's a loss of control. It starts to do its own thing. And you come to embrace that. As an artist, you expect it, you want it to kind of do its own thing. There's maybe almost a bit of a philosophy there for the uptight artist. Let go, just let it do what it wants to do. Oh, before I forget, I need to go back and get red into the other sleeve, right? That was one of the major blunders from last week. I forgot to get her other arm to match, and now it is actually maybe almost a little too red. Crilly, can't you do anything right? But at least it doesn't stand out as a glaring error. I'm sure some people at the end of the last video was like, you forgot the arm! Come on, man! And now it's sort of spontaneously I'm adding a little extra shading along the area, all the area of the figure here. Give it a little more three-dimensionality. And why not, we did purple. Maybe I'll do a sort of bluish tone here and add yet more bits of color to the illustration. Now that had a lot of water to it. That one maybe almost too much water. I think I need to soak some of that up. But I hope you'll, those of you who hate time-lapse, I hope you'll be pleased with this one. I've sort of become self-conscious in terms of, you know, am I being entertaining enough? Did I say anything useful during the course of this video? Hopefully I did at least once. I feel like we're getting to a good zone here in terms of the coloring, though. It's starting to look a little more like a finished illustration. How about a tiny touch of green right here? Yeah, I hadn't planned to go quite so colorful, but I feel like it's helping. So I'm going to go with it. Try to not have it look like a giant Easter egg, but I think a little extra color is going to help this illustration. And you can see my approach is to sort of like move around and not have it all in the same part of the illustration. I'm sort of deliberately dropping in a color here and then dropping in the same type of color elsewhere in the illustration, which is just a technique for having it all kind of hang together. Actually, I'm liking the green. I think I hadn't planned it, but let's go ahead and add more green. Maybe it'll say a predominantly green spaceship. And I don't know if I'm going to have time. I suppose I could hit the stopwatch, hit the pause button on this video camera, and take a moment to sort of consider what else this illustration needs. I've crossed the almost crossed the 16 minutes mark on this last one. I do believe that 20 minutes is going to do it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and hit the pause button and just sort of use my eyes and look at this thing and say, what am I going to do in these last 5 minutes that will benefit the illustration the most? Alright, well, I've decided, having looked at it, that really what it needs is bolder inking, and that is going to be the major thing that I'm doing here. Bigger areas of black that I think will give this illustration the contrast that it needs. Sometimes that's really the key difference between a poor illustration and a good one, is just contrast. Sometimes it just needs a little more contrast, and I think inking in general does require sort of bold areas of black, and that's a lesson that I still need to learn as an inker. That so a lot of times my inking is just a little too tentative, and some of the most beautiful inking that I see involves big, bold areas of black, sometimes applied with a brush. And I was considering doing that even right now, but I didn't want to throw a wrench, throw a spanner into the works, and press my luck in terms of throwing in some new technique. But I think already you can see just these bolder areas are helping to lift the illustration to a higher level. And, I don't know if I'll reach my goal of making this a beautiful illustration that I can be enormously proud of, but at the very least, you have seen a lot of real-time art creation here. You've seen maybe more spontaneity from me than you normally get to see. Just the process required that from me. I am a little more, normally more of a methodical illustrator, and like I said, I like to spend hours on a single illustration. I think probably my best work is the result of that kind of illustration, but it's nice as an artist to challenge yourself, and I think that's what's happened during these last few weeks. I've sort of forced myself, for this illustration anyway, to be a little more spontaneous, and to just, throw caution to the wind and just start getting stuff down there and seeing what happens. And let me know what you think of it. It's probably going to be a while before I do another one of these no time-lapse challenges. We're on a schedule of once every, several years? I think it was at least 2 years since the last time I did one of these. But if enough people show up to watch these things and express support in the comments section, I will continue to do them. Otherwise, I'll probably most likely stick with using my buddy Old Man Time-Lapse to help me deliver more compact videos. And anyway, let me know what you think. Do you like seeing the entire process? Would you like me to do this more often? Is 3 videos, as I feel it probably is 3 videos kind of a good limit in terms of wanting me to devote so many weeks to a single illustration? All of this I'm interested to hear your thoughts on, and I do believe that we are maybe getting to the end. One last thing that I want to do before I end this series of videos is to erase all these guidelines. I don't think that that should count. Come on, that doesn't count. The guidelines? The erasing of the guidelines? I'm not going to do any time lapse because that would just be sacrilege. But I am going to hit the pause button and erase sort of off camera so that you can see the final illustration without any pencil lines. All right, well, there you have it. I'm going to just take a moment to add a little bit more texture throughout the illustration, but otherwise, you know, I think the process has reached its conclusion for good or for ill, and you know, I think that you can just imagine that if I had done this in 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours, it would be a much different illustration. And you know, there's just different techniques for different occasions, and hopefully this one is good enough for the purposes of showing a little bit of real-time illustration. You know, I have sort of taken a holiday from showing my books at the end of the videos like I normally do, but I thought I would bring out at least manga art. My very latest book just came out in early June, and very, very thankful to everyone who's picked this up. It's just a huge honor to know that people are willing to buy my books as a way of supporting me, and who knows, maybe they're even worth the money that people pay for them. I like to think that they are, but I think it's time now for me to lay down this pen. I want to thank you all for watching this video, especially all of you who stuck through all 3 of them. Greatly appreciate your support watching these videos, and I will definitely be back with another one real soon.